Welcome to Trial and Truth. I'm Shiraz Khan of the Shiraz Law Firm, and I'll be your host. Today, we're honored to welcome a truly distinguished guest to the show. He's an award-winning judge of the Washtenaw County Circuit Court, a member of the Michigan Tribal State Federal Forum, and the Michigan Judicial Council. His career exemplifies an unwavering commitment to justice. With decades of experience on the bench, he has earned himself a reputation, not just for his legal expertise, but also for his compassion and dedication to the people. Recognized for his various achievements throughout Michigan and abroad, please help me welcome the Honorable Timothy P. Connors.
Thank you. That was very sweet.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Shiraz. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey into the law?
You know, you and I have talked about this a little bit. So I came from a family of people that were in the arts and the creative side and the healthcare field. And there was no one in the law. And my mother actually was running a show for the local TV station. And they then had the TV station. This is in Wisconsin. The TV station had a little Christmas time thing or something. And they're walking around with the guy that did the kids show, Marshall to Marshall. Okay. And they're coming up with all the kids from the people on the anchors. And I was in the 6th grade, and they said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I just said, "I want to be a lawyer." And my parents walked home and said, "Why did you say?" I said, "I have no idea," but it was in me. So I don't know that it was one of those things. I woke up and I knew that's what I was supposed to do. I have no better explanation.
Right. What made you want to be a judge?
I will tell you, first of all, when I did go to law school, I wasn't a very good law student. And I was going to be a transactional business tax lawyer.
Really?
And I went with the firm, and the recession hit in 1980. And I said, we don't have a lot of work, but we represent insurance companies. We got a lot of litigations happening.
Right.
If you're going to make it here, kid, we're going to see if you can make it as a litigator. I had no desire to go into a courtroom. And I was thrown in on a case against a very, very experienced lawyer, and who ended up becoming a judge with me.
Oh, wow.
And I sat there, and everyone said he's going to get killed.
Right.
And I went in with the seat of my pants, and I just had a week with that jury. And it was this time of year, literally my first trial. And it was in December, and I sat there after a week in trial. The jury was out. I said, I'm probably going to get killed, but there's something about it. There's something about this courtroom. It is a sacred place. This is the one place I know where truth has the chance of coming to light. I said, this is beautiful. I'm probably not going to make it in this firm, but I'm going to do this. I won the darn case, and all of a sudden I was F. Lee Bailey or something. But it was in that moment. It was in a December moment, sitting in a courtroom. It was dark out. We're waiting for the jury. And I said, this space, this place has the potential to do great stuff. I knew then.
It's amazing. It's amazing. What are some of the most rewarding parts and challenging parts of being a judge?
When I went on the bench, I was young, and I thought I knew a lot, and I knew some things, but I was not prepared for what it is like to be the judge. And what I realized is that even in my practice, I never truly understood the humanity that this is supposed to be for human beings. Perhaps because of my father's background in the healthcare field, I always thought we should be healers, and the judge that I replaced said we should be healers of controversy, not profiteers of controversy. And so in that sense of the courtroom, I felt like now I'm in the temple.
Right.
I'm responsible for keeping the temple in order, inviting people in. I'm responsible for letting, like I felt that time as a young lawyer, there's something sacred about this place. And so all the profanity about what we should be as human beings.
Sure.
Outside, I said, when you come here, take your shoes off. Leave that mud aside. We don't talk like that
and
here.
Be authentic.
Be authentic, but also be your best self.
Right.
Your best self. Quit worrying about tearing down the humanity and the other human being. Let's look at how we got here, why we got here. Let's talk about where we should or need to go. And jurors over the years really get it.
Right.
They feel that same thing that I feel from the bench.
Right.
So the most rewarding thing is to have the honor to sit inside the temple.
Right.
And to make sure that that moment, that space in that place is honored in a good way. And to see your fellow citizens come in who really didn't want to be there, but they got yanked in, suddenly go, wow, that's the best thing.
Yeah. I can find truth here.
You can find truth
justice here.
Find truth. And when we talk about truth, it's listening to everything, but then the higher truth.
Right.
Like, what should we be? What was? What is now? What should it be? And if it should be, it can be. And they get that moment to say, that's what it is. That's what it should be. It's really cool.
Yeah. Now, were you ever...
By the way, the Shiraz Law Firm. I threw that in. Okay.
Thank you for that. Were you ever scared on the bench?
Oh, you mean what way? Physically? Like for my safety?
No, not
scared
so much as your safety.
Yeah. I've never been afraid of my own. You and I tease. I know you're the descendant of the great Kubla Khan. I don't have that honor. But, like the Irish are very much like, today's a good day to die. If we want to get into it, we can get into it.
Right.
But I'm going to go out in a good way, and you're going with me. So you have to decide.
We can do it together.
But so I've never been afraid. I mean, a lot of judges are always afraid of stuff. And it's not that we haven't had people come in and threaten. But I've never been afraid because otherwise you live in fear. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I think, but when you go to what truly is my fear was I too jaded? Were there biases that I wasn't even aware of that might have come in? Did I make a decision that ended up hurting more than it helped?
Right.
Was I impatient? All the self-reflective, and the fear at the end of the day is, was I none of us will ever be what we really hope to be in the moment. The real question is what do we aspire towards? So if at least our aspirational goal is one that helps and heals and is part of all of us, you do your best.
Right.
My fear has always been, I could have done better. I should have done better. I know I always could have, but should have in that moment, even with your failings. That haunts me. You can talk to my wife who's sitting out there, but that haunts me, all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
No, I can understand that. How do you manage the balance between applying the law and the broader context of justice?
Well, so our ability to achieve, our ability to get from point A to point C or D is that in our systems of justice, there are only some paths that are open.
That's true.
So when you start to think about what is and what should be, you just search for a path that's available in the law. And you quit worrying about, and then what you find is you get to a roadblock, you have to figure out, is there a way I can walk around it, underneath it, or over it? And occasionally you are drawn on as a judge or in a justice system, say, now it's time to walk through the barrier and let someone else decide whether that walking through survives.
Right.
So you have to have the courage to do what you think is the right thing with the full recognition it may come back and hurt you professionally. It may come back and harm you in terms of, but if you think it's the right thing, so the grandfather teaching the Anishinaabe have in the courtroom, the one of bravery. Bravery is always doing what you know to be the right thing. And here's the catch. When everyone is watching, knowing that everyone may come back or there may be backlash, and when no one is watching. You see?
That's when it matters.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
So is the goal in trying to find peace within the court setting for all the litigants and the attorneys?
Well, the goal is to first find peace within yourself.
Okay.
Because what you project in any given moment is the window of what you try to feed and nurture from within.
Right.
So before you talk about other people finding peace, you have to first look at yourself and say, this is who I am, what I am, and why I'm here. And then you try to project that in every moment. So the difference in finding peace in a courtroom is not from the idea of by virtue of my dictating or labeling or controlling you. My purpose is to see, I see this common, I understand, I felt it, I know how you're hurting. Now let's try to find a place where that can be expressed and let go of and replaced with the solutions within yourself. So the great peacemakers are the people in the room, not me. Not me.
Right.
I told you, it's the privilege to sit there and be responsible for the protection of the temple. The temple is the place that everyone reaffirms and finds within themselves that commonality.
Right.
Yeah.
So, understood. So tell me a little bit about peacemaking, the peacemaking court.
So that is authorized, approved, promoted by our Michigan Supreme Court, which I am extremely thankful for.
That's right.
Many people hear about restorative justice. That's peacemaking. It's indigenous in this country. Restorative justice is also part of the experience of this country. Our peacemaking, our Native friends say those are our cousins. All of that. It is really the view, a worldview approach, which we do already have in our current system. It's just that we don't nurture it. So, for example, we already have circles for the resolution of dispute that carry out those principles. It's called our jury system. I've tried more civil jury trials in this state than any judge. I know it because I've been doing it for decades. And what really strikes me about it is the fact it is circle. Mm-hmm. The final instructions is always each of you listen to the other. Let everyone have the chance to talk about what they saw. Mm-hmm. Everyone, please listen, because collectively you might understand your duty. You have no skin in that game. There's no outcome for you. You have been asked to do this profound duty on behalf of our community.
Right.
And this is sacred and important work that you do. That's already there. So when we talk about peacemaking, all I'm saying is, why don't we take that? The end result is the model. What we tell our juries to do at the end is what we should be doing throughout from the beginning, no matter what the role is. And by the way, we talk about the omega. Mm-hmm. The alpha is the oath for the privilege to practice law in this state, to even be able to be an attorney. So our alpha and our omega talk about this is how it should be done. Why should not the rest of our procedures and our policies?
Absolutely.
That should we just say, let's just take the beginning and the end and look at what we're doing in between. Does it meet those goals? If not, abandon it. Right. Yeah. Right.
Of course. What are some of the types of cases that are suitable for the peacemaking court?
Any. A quick test is, when the people leave the courtroom, are they still going to have contact with each other? And that's whether it's business or something. Is there some contact? Well, then obviously that should be available as a concurrent path.
Right.
Even those where they're not going to have contact, people leave the court experience drained, dissatisfied, hurt, where they need to have a need to say, I need to understand this process and I need to be able to move on with my life. So peacemaking is appropriate even in those cases where the parties may not have to be together again. And again, as we talk about, if we look at our responsibility of everything we do in between the alpha and the omega,
right,
then we just quietly say at any given moment, there's a need here. So peacemaking is more need-based than filling out a form, putting in a box,
right,
checklist, processing.
Sure.
One is processing, the other is actually listening.
Right. The concept of the circle. What would you say is the difference between the peacemaking court and our traditional courts when it comes to the circle.
So you know a courtroom, you're a very good trial lawyer. I've seen you. You've been in front of me. But you know those dynamics. First of all, most courtrooms are built to intimidate, and it's a triangulation.
Right.
They even teach you in new judges school, don't get pulled into the triangle because the lawyers are speaking here. The parties can't even talk to the judge.
Right.
It's going back and forth. All this is a performance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the jury is watching a performance. And so information is limited. Information is jaded. Information that may be true, one side doesn't want out. Or if it comes out, they try to diminish it.
That's right.
And they try to overstate the importance of theirs. So it's a process of, while exploring it, it's really taking away. So in a circle, the idea is that's not there. So in a circle, it's the idea of everybody's voice is important. And litigants always talk about the difference of a circle. Like, I finally felt I was heard.
I had a chance to talk.
I had a chance. I had my chance. And so people get a chance to say what they have to say without interruption.
Yeah.
And then that's there. And everybody's taught to use the two ears. My native friend says, and this is a problem for the Irish because we love to talk. But he said, you got to listen twice as much as you talk, Tim. And this is going to be hard for you.
Yeah.
I said, so you see how much I talk, my friends? I said, you see how much I can talk? Yes, like the birds in the fire. I said, that means I've listened twice as much. So my song's that beautiful, you see? But that's the whole point, is why then that happens. And it's without like saying we are hearing to understand. We're listening to understand. There's a phrase that said it's not enough to say we can agree to disagree.
Right.
Well, sure. I hear you. You're still wrong. It's to hear to understand.
Right.
And whether you agree or not at the end, I now understand why the descendant of Kubla Khan feels the way he does, because I listened to you.
Because you listened to me. Yeah. So it's actually about listening and being heard and giving everyone the chance to be heard.
Yes.
It isn't just about these lawyers and whatever it is that they're trying to prove for their clients. It's also about the litigant, him or herself, having a chance to be heard within the circle.
Let me give you a small example.
Please.
That might, for somebody, my wife actually came up with this idea. So she had been she'd been a prosecutor. So she saw the really
Yeah.
So custody circles, parents are worried about, there's a dispute, families breaking up. Where is the child going to be? Where are they going to spend their time?
Right.
And ours is very adversarial. This is what we teach to our law school. They try it once in the adversarial, then they try in circle.
Yep.
So the way the circle would work, rather than everybody getting up and say, I'm the grandpa, shut up, you have no rights. I'm the grandma, shut up, you have no rights. I'm the the new whatever.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about what's wrong with that person that pertains to the child. We treat the child like a piece of property in our system. And our native friends, one of the things I learned from the peacemaking from our tribe, they say, we have no word for child in Potawatomi. The closest is Pinoja.
That's fascinating.
Which it means literally young spirit coming forth. So that, just close your mind, young spirit coming forth, this is his child. Now I have this responsibility to this child, as opposed I have ownership rights in this child. So how we say, okay, that's what we're trying to achieve. How does the procedure? So the circle starts with everybody who this child has a relationship with. That relationship is the need for that child. So everybody who that child has something they need,
has an opportunity.
The young spirit coming forth, we have to help. Everybody brings a picture of the child to start the circle. And they say, why'd you take that picture?
Yeah.
That's the day I took my grandson fishing. And you should have seen the day he got that, I got this picture. Look at the grin on his face. They share the story, they put it in the middle, and everybody hears everybody else's story of why they love that child.
It's amazing.
And now suddenly, collectively, everybody realizes the child's at the middle, but all these people have a connection.
Right.
So instead of fear was what comes in about custody. I'm going to get cut off. I'm going to get cut off. I'm not going to have it. I'm going to get it's rubbed in my face. Now that's quietly up, and now it's love. Now the next question is, so what do you think? What do you think Shiraz needs from us right now?
Right.
This is upsetting for him. I think he needs that, or not even what are you going to give to Shiraz? What are you going to bring, like a potluck?
Sure.
Quit worrying about what Tim's going to do.
Right.
Shiraz, what are you going to do for this nephew of yours?
Right.
I could do this. And other people start to build on what we could do. And suddenly now we walk out with all of us collectively. You and I may not like each other. Doesn't matter. But we do care about this kid.
For the benefit of...
And we don't have to do it together, but I know you're doing it, but I'm doing that too.
Sure.
See how that's an example, that's one area of the law of how the shift of how we talk about, think about, and just be.
Sure.
Just be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so a lot of my trial lawyer friends are going to want me to ask this question. When it comes to damages and numbers.
Yes.
And lawyers, whether even sometimes when they're on the same side of the law, have issues with coming up with the numbers and saying, well, this is what works, this is what doesn't. How do we address the issue of damages within the peacemaking court?
That's very interesting because I've had cases brought over to me where they could not agree on the numbers and they were going to go to a jury.
Right.
And they said, would you mind just doing a circle? And so I did circles first it's for a different judge or something.
Sure.
Although I've done it in my own with juries. So we listen to each side, we listen to each side. And then we always go back and say, well, what do you really need out of this? Well, I want them to know this really hurt me.
Right.
Or I need this. And okay. So then as it starts to, a lot of times you'll realize there are assumptions about each side because of that adversarial system that weren't true. The ability to make an apology and an apology to be heard and accepted is huge, which our system won't do because you never admit anything. And so I've had ones where other judges came to me on wrongful death lawsuits where there's no chance. There were criminal cases first, now in the...
Right.
And I sat down with both families and the moms ended up hugging each other and they settled it. So if you think about it, people say, it's crazy, that's silly. Nobody's going to open up like that. It is confidential.
Right.
You still go back in front of a jury. As a trial lawyer, and I was a big trial lawyer, that's what we also then asked the jury. That we're saying, unfortunately, we can't reach resolution. You are our circle. Please listen to our voice. You do what you think is right. Here's how we feel. Here's what we need. And it's now in your hands. So that jury system is a kind of a peace circle.
Sure.
Because it brings resolution in the moment, saying you've now, what the difference is, you've taken away the ability to have that decision made within yourselves collectively. You put it in the hands of strangers. That's a huge risk.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so from trial lawyers' standpoint for their clients, I think we owe it to our clients to say, there is this process. There is this possibility.
There is this option to see if we can come up with some sort of a resolution.
Yes. And if it doesn't
we
work,
can't, then we'll just go back to the jury.
System in place.
We'll already go back.
That's right. You don't have to order the special menu. You're back to the.
You're back to
it's on the menu. No daily special for you. You see what I mean?
Right. Of course.
There's nothing lost.
So tell me this: what's the future look like for the peacemaking court?
Oh, I think it looks good. For example, I think you have a copy of it. Our Michigan Supreme Court now, the Michigan Judicial Council made a recommendation to the Supreme Court that there should be peacemaking restorative justice in every state court in this county on a 3-5-year plan. Our Michigan Supreme Court's been a great leader on this. There are courts around the country that have been picking up and doing this. And at the end of the day, everybody talks about you want to stay out of court. So all these all these programs are happening. All I'm saying is if it has value, why would we not incorporate it right within?
Absolutely.
And so I think, well, first of all, I think it looks good. I think it looks good because it's needed. Right. And there are people from all over, from different walks of life, from different countries are doing it too. Why not?
Right.
What are you afraid of?
Of course. What has to change within the process for this to become more widespread?
Well, I think it takes two things. One, in which our Supreme Court, you've got to have the light from above. So whoever is in control of the institution has to say, this is okay, it has value, we're going to give you the chance to do it. Right. You got to have that. Then you have to have people inside the system, and it doesn't have to be everybody. But at least the bright lights, the stars in the sky say, I'm willing to do the extra work.
Yeah.
I'm willing to give of myself. I'm willing to do it. I'm not asking you to do it, but please, you don't have to. That's your right not to, but it is not your right to extinguish that light.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you just find individuals. It's all this one, relationship. So the first thing is you have to at least let the possibility have the light of day. That has to come from above.
Right.
Then you need the gardeners to plant the seed, to water it, to watch out for it,
To want to
nourish
make
it,
a difference.
and that's why you need a good gardener. If you got a gardener saying, all right, they told me I got to plant radishes. The heck, I hate radishes. I'm never going to water them.
Yeah.
And then they say, see, it doesn't work. It doesn't work because you didn't water it.
Right. So walk me through the process really, really quickly. I file a case. It hits the circuit court. The other attorney says, Shiraz, there's a program where we can go and talk within a circle. The case is already pending. How do we get started?
Well, at least currently in our court, you would do that by simply saying we'd like to avail ourselves of that. We look at the case and we talk to them and say, what does that look like? That can happen within the court in the system. That can happen outside of the court system. That can happen in conjunction without. I'm a great believer in facilitation. I work very closely with our facilitators to say it's in your hands. Take the time. So facilitators who understand what that's about are our peacemakers too. They really are great ones. And so the idea is to build that space and place within and without. So it's the court's responsibility to promote it outside before it comes to court, after it goes out, while the people are in court. And then I think what happens is the symbiotic relationship community is then very supportive, or those people are there saying, yep, we're here to work with you. I first started bringing it in on everyone said, you're out of your mind. And I said, well, perhaps I am, but maybe that says something about you too. So the first one was on reunification cases where neglect and abuse. And really, most of the neglect has other issues of poverty, joblessness, maybe all kinds of things.
Of course.
And so we were just tearing these families apart quickly to hit timelines, et cetera. So we first started peacemaking on that, and we would offer it. And then even cases where maybe DHHS said, no, we're not going to do it. No, it's never going to work. We got to have, even some of those cases came back on around. So, for example, by using peacemaking in the child welfare system in Washtenaw County, where that was offered, that was a major push. If it wasn't serious sexual abuse or something, okay, we have that other, like a criminal case. But we had the lowest per capita rate of removal of children from their families and communities because of our peacemaking courts. Now, you tell me the long-term ripple effect. Does that not have value? If you can't sit there and tell me, I can see that has some value.
100%.
Then I don't know what else to tell to anybody.
Right.
If you think it's all about ripping kids apart and sticking them away and everybody losing those back to that custody, when we do that, that child has now been ripped from everybody. That child has a connection, and that child's grandparents, that child's great grandparents, that child's aunties and uncles, that all of that.
It affects everybody.
It affects everybody. But then that child is left with, I'm stripped of who I am, where I came from.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
And we all need that.
Absolutely. So I understand that you'll be retiring after 34 years on the bench.
My friend, 2 weeks from now, and I hope you'll come by and say goodbye.
I definitely will.
Yeah.
So what's next for you?
So what's next is my wife and I teach at the University of Michigan Law School. We teach together there. Wonderful. That will continue. I teach at Wayne State Law School. We also teach at Vermont Law School. And we have taught, because she came out of the criminal aspect, I came out of the civil. We always talked about that's what that's like. But what's really you need to know is peacemaking, restorative justice. So even when you have to go to trial in front of a jury, what I just talked to you about, you bring those principles to a jury. You bring that style of advocacy and that respect for the temple of the courtroom to the jury. You behave that way from the oath that we took till the very end. And now, even that process is the peacemaking circle. So that's number one. Number two, pitch for facilitator. We just the two of us, not trying to build an empire.
Sure.
We just want to continue to help people. The skill set that we have learned from that experience, we hope to do as a facilitator.
That's wonderful.
And then I don't dare tell my wife, but if I found a good lawyer who said, can you come in and help me do a closing argument? If I liked the lawyer, of course I would do that.
Good to know.
She said, if you get back in that courtroom, Tim, as litigating, I will never see you again. So
good to know.
That's our future.
Okay, well, Thank you again, Judge Connors, for being a guest on Trial and Truth. Be sure to join us next time. Until then, fight for justice and take it to trial. Thank you.